will move on to the public hearing on the 2019 budget. County Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. As you mentioned, tonight we conduct the public hearing on the budgets for Ellis County and Ellis County Fire District Number 1. Both of these budgets were considered by your commission on July 16th and have been duly noticed for publication for tonight's hearing. Both budgets provide for mill levy of the same amount as the current year for next year, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner, this will be, I guess, your time to speak to Phil. If you have anything you'd like to say.
Are we supposed to do the public comments first?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you do have to do public comments first. Do you have anyone from the public that would like to comment on the 2019 budget?
Yes.
We have to
We need to
We have to
officially go into the open hearing,
Okay.
public hearing.
Haven't done this for a while. Whatever Bill Jeter says.
I move the commission open the public hearing on the county and fire district budgets for 2019.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to open it up for public comment.
You might vote.
Oh, hang on one second, we got to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Yes, sir, you may come up and approach the podium. Please state your name when you do, even though we know who you are.
Oh, you do? Chris Rohrbaugh, I had a question on the sheriff's salary. In 2015, it was $1,577,000. How did it go up to 3.1 in 4 years?
Well, that was
It
because
doubled.
the jail was added back in. Before it was the jail wasn't in there, and after that, the jail expenses were added back into that.
So even though it's listed as salaries,
It shouldn't be all under salaries, but it might, I mean,
it is.
but then it comes with the jailers, et cetera.
So it was just,
Also, and also during that time, because we were redoing the jail, we had a lot of costs, the moving prisoners as well, which costs us a lot.
Was
but it's listed as salaries, so I just wondered.
I see that, you're exactly right. Like I said,
It goes from 1.5 million to 3.1 million.
Bill, do you remember all what's
4
incorporated
years,
in
yeah.
that now?
So, yes, so this would be on page 20 of the county budget data. So the salary total for so this is Department 22 and the sheriff. The salary amount was $1,577,455 in 2015. Then if you flip over to page 33, there was an additional $737,709 in salaries in what was then Department 54, the jail. So if you add the two of those together, you get about 2.4 million. And then the following year, you're a little over, very close to 2.6 million. And then it goes up to about 2.79 million for 2017. Just slightly over 3 million for 2018, and then 3.179 for 2019. So, as Commissioner McClellan and Commissioner Lawson have pointed out, the jail budget was separated for a period of time, and then it was merged back in to the sheriff's department main budget for 2017. There were a few trailing salary expenses in 2017, that first pay period in the year that gets carried over. But for 2018 and then for 2019, it's all in Department 22. The growth that is reflected there is just the growth in terms of the addition of 3 positions that was approved by your commission in
It
2016.
was 3 jailers, was it?
3 jailers, as well as the raises. And then the most significant change, of course, is the cost of employee health insurance. So you see that group health insurance back in 15 was $255,196 in the sheriff's budget and $107,817 in the jail budget. So about $362,000, and that in the span of 5 years has gone up to $561,000. So that's the most significant change in salaries, is the cost of health insurance over that period of time.
I thought maybe the new jailers were making $200,000 each.
Oh.
They are not.
They are not.
I'm going to tell you
I'm
that.
sure they wish they were.
They do cost us a pretty penny in terms of health insurance, however.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have one other question, and just so I know, the wind farm money, you're up to like 818,000 this year, or something like that. Do the county schools get any of that at all? Was that in the agreement?
No.
They get 0? Well, why is that?
Because
It's
that was what
property
was
tax.
negotiated.
That was.
Were the schools involved in negotiations?
No.
But I don't understand that. I mean, why wouldn't they get some? It's, instead of paying county taxes, property taxes, right? That's what the wind farm did. In lieu of paying property taxes, they just gave the county a 30-year contract.
Yes.
It goes up each year, but the county schools never got a penny of that? I don't understand that.
That was one of them that was negotiated. I think that was,
Before
before
all of us.
all of us,
Just
actually.
before you guys?
Yeah. Was in 2008.
Huh.
Invenergy came in and they negotiated with the county commissioners at that time when they proposed the wind farm here. And no, they weren't negotiating with schools. Our commissioners at that time didn't suggest that.
I think the schools got ripped off.
No,
I mean, some of the schools in Spearville, they just passed a $8.3 million bond, and it's totally paid for by
that's true.
wind farm.
That's true.
Spearville looks for ways to spend their money.
What's that?
Spearville down there looks for
Yeah,
ways
they
to spend their money.
got too much money.
I will tell you, Chris, at that time, there were 5 wind farms wanting to come into Ellis County, and the commissioners would not let them.
Because
So-
was there not supposed to be a stage 2 and a stage 3, and we just did stage 1 for the wind farm? Or am I just, someone's just,
Some
blowing
people
smoke
were
to me?
just talking.
I couldn't tell you. All I know is the one got voted down out here west of Hayes that time.
yeah, I know there's a lot of
I don't know if there was-
controversy.
I don't know if there was a stage 2 or stage 3 at that time or not.
Not on
Mr.
Invenergy.
G.
So is that a possibility down the road to look into that? I mean,
As far as,
to develop more wind turbines, more wind energy in Ellis County?
as you know, the rumor mill, they're supposed to be, but until we see it to where
Yeah.
that's gonna happen, we
Who
don't
has to
know.
push that though to make that happen?
I'd say it's up to the wind
Commission?
energy companies,
It's up
isn't
to
it?
the energy company if it's needed.
Really? Huh. Okay, I'm just
Just
wondering.
because there was talk, they were gonna continue that one all the way across, clear to Lake North at one
Northwest.
time. And I don't know
There
if
was
that's,
one that was going to be down that way, it was called Fayetteville.
All right, that's all I got. Just wondered, thanks.
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you for questions.
Anyone else have any public comments this evening? Seeing none, no? Everybody's smiling if you're thinking, but I guess not. Ask for a motion to close. Close our public hearing. Marcy?
Okay, I move the commission close the public hearing.
Um,
Second.
You can go ahead and second.
I will second that. No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Okay, we will go back into hearing on Commissioners, input on the 2019 budget or questions for Phil this evening? I know you've all had time to look at it. As always, I think there's probably still areas we could continue to save money. I know we've done a great job of doing that. Phil, you did a good job putting this back together for presentation. Thank you. And going forward, I think there's probably still ways to sharpen this budget even more, other than taking away from Public Works. We've robbed them every year this comes up, so I think robbing Public Works is over, or we can't send Darren to a fire down our roads, or carries ambulances, or the police chief, or our sheriff's department, so I think Public Works is done being cut. If anything, they need more back. But, anything that you'd like to
I
say?
wondered if Commissioner McClellan had any ideas.
I don't have any ideas to cut more. I went through it this morning again. I looked because I had the other copies and put them side by side, and everybody has done a very good job. And I'm sure as we go forward, we can find other places, but it may take a little time.
Anything else to add? No? Commissioner Wilsinger?
Well, I have written something down that I wanted to say. I've shared my thoughts about our budget with everyone, and in my mind, it's really straightforward. Phil projected county deficits for the next few years that should scare all of our elected officials and department heads in the county. The public deserves to know what will happen in the next 4 years if everyone doesn't come up with ways to make their departments run more efficiently. I know you can't see this from out there, but I know a lot of you have seen this. Look at the numbers in yellow and red. As you can see, we deplete our savings and resources available to us decrease as well. Sadly, the only two areas we see an increase in is spending and the deficits we have. In the next 4 years, the county will have to impose a $6.6 million tax increase in order to operate as it does now. 6.6 million. And in 2024, the county will have an almost $10 million deficit, unless by some miracle, the county valuations increase during that time. 1 mill raises $389,000. To put some perspective to the serious revenue problems the county is facing, in order to pay for the county's overspending in the next 4 years, we will have to increase the mill levy by just under 17 mills just to pay bills. That's an almost 43% increase in 4 years, or 10% increase per year. As I've said before, the county's level of spending is unsustainable. While I appreciate that everyone's trying to find ways to generate revenue and find small cuts to cut spending, unfortunately what's been done to date is superficial and mostly symbolic, and it doesn't attack the core problem, overspending. I've asked for all sorts of different things. And this budget is not acceptable the way it is. And I have some ideas, but I'd like my fellow commissioners to come up with more as well.
Marcy, anything to add from Barb's comments?
No?
I just started looking at a few things this last week, but it doesn't amount to near enough of the projected numbers that Barb just read. I mean,
Pretty scary.
They are. I mean,
It is scary, I agree.
well, it is. Nobody likes to raise taxes, nobody likes to raise the mill levy. You can see what surrounding counties are doing around us. You can go not very far from here, less than 30 miles from here, and you can see where their mill levy is at compared to ours. You can see where their property taxes are too.
Yeah.
But, so no, I think there is room for improvement. Nobody wants to cut their budget, whether it's a department head, elected official, whatever. forward, we're probably gonna have to make some more cuts that people are not gonna like. It'll probably amount to laying off personnel at the end of the day. That's the only place we have left to cut. We as commissioners, I mean, I think we need to step up to the plate also. I know, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever we met last, seemed like it's been forever. But like that night, I think I mentioned we all need to take a 2% cut, I believe. We need to take a larger cut than that. Don't know how popular it's going to be with my fellow commissioners, but
Hey, everyone's gonna have to cut
I mean, I think
more than 2%.
I don't think 5% is too much to ask for my fellow commissioners off their paychecks. That's my opinion. You two may think different, which is fine. That's why there's 3 people up here and not 1.
Well, there's also the fact that our purchasing power is gone. What we bought 4 years ago is going to be that much more today. So we have to take that into consideration. And I believe that we may have to cut personnel. We may have to cut services. It is a reality.
And on personnel, I mean, it's one of them deals. If somebody retires from a department, if you have 6 people in your department and 1 retires, I mean, my opinion is they don't get replaced going forward. You know, it may not be popular, but I'm sorry, it's reality just like Barbara. It is true reality, and going forward, I think that's where we're at. If somebody retires, sorry, they don't get replaced. With the exception of maybe Public Works, they're already down 10 staff. I don't think there's anybody sitting in this room other than Bill Rink can say he's down 10 people. I think all the other departments are staffed pretty well, very well. So even if it comes to where each department's gonna have to cut 1, that's a start. They don't fix the problem. I think outside services, like I mentioned 2 or 3 weeks ago, we may have to contract more out to outside vendors. If we can't do it all ourselves, we may have to look at that possibility, getting bids from local contractors to do some of our work. Whether that's in whatever, printing, you name it, we may have to look at outside sources. It's gonna be cheaper than having a full-time person on staff. Full-time person is cheap, it's all the benefits that goes with it, that costs a lot of money. Because once you have a full-time person, they're there till the day they retire, basically, or if they take another job. But so once you put somebody on full-time, I mean, we own them. And that's how it is. I mean, it's not popular. We've been talking about it for a long time, and the day of reckoning is getting very close. I know the 2019 budget, Phil has done a great job putting together. That sure doesn't fix 2020. I don't think it's too early to ask our county administrator that we start on the 2020 budget in November. Start looking going forward. And I mean, I still think a hiring freeze needs to be in place. And if someone retires, I just don't feel they get replaced. You know, if you have 2 people in your office, that may be different. If you got 3 or 4 or 6, I don't think we're going to replace that person. That's why I think we need to have a hiring freeze ASAP, and if you really feel you need that person, you can come before the commission and tell us why you do. I can probably almost guarantee you the position's not going to be filled. My opinion, I can't speak for my fellow 2, and nor do I want to. Pretty soon they're both going to blackball me here, but that's okay.
I don't think so.
But that's the reality. Whether we like it or not, that is the reality. We cannot keep raising property taxes. We cannot at the level that we're doing, because as Barb mentioned, our spending is much ahead of our income. You couldn't do it on your household budget, and granted the county budget is much larger than most people's household budget, but the reality is you can't do it here either. Raising taxes constantly is not going to fix the problem when we spend a lot more than we take in. You know, the wind farm money, like Chris mentioned earlier, the wind farm money was a true godsend to Ellis County. And I think everyone is very aware of that. Would I like to have 3 wind farms in the county? It'd be great. Is that going to happen someday? Your guess is as good as mine. We can't bank on that. you know, we just can't bank on what the future is because not one person in there knows what the future is. So again, not all of our elected officials and department heads are here, but the 2020 budget is going to become a reality in about 90 days. And I encourage Phil to set up a meeting with all of us, including commissioners, whether he starts with department heads and elected officials first. But we need to start on that 2020 budget in November. So if you see somebody in your staff that maybe is going to retire, just think of what I said. I think my fellow two commissioners might be with me. But, you know, just think of that going forward. So, again, thank you. Anything else, Barb, you want to add, or Marcy?
I just cannot vote for this budget the way it is, but I do want to point out that regardless of the result this evening, you can still cut the budget.
We can
Just
lower it, we
can't
just
raise
can't
it.
raise it. I think that's
So
a pretty
we don't
limited
have to
time,
wait
probably,
for
isn't it?
2020 to do that.
Marcy, any further comment?
No.
Excuse me. Phil, anything you need to add before we go any further?
No, sir.
So I'm just going to throw this out. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think we can legally do this, Mr. Jeter. So for the 2019 budget, can I ask a 5% cut to the commissioners? We have to vote on that, correct?
You can ask for a 5%. County Councilor Bill Jeter, you can ask for a cut immediately for
Okay.
county commission salaries, if that's what you want to do. That would
I guess that's what I'm
take a
asking both
majority
of you.
That's
vote.
fine. That's,
I guess I'd like to start with 5% from us, and excluding public works, I guess I'd like to see another 3% for 2019. Can that be attained, Phil?
So if I'm understanding what you're suggesting, you would like departments other than Public Works to cut an additional 3% out of their expenditures for the 2019 budget.
That is correct.
Okay. So certainly that's a possibility. As Commission is aware, we have to have a budget to county clerk by the 25th of this month, and so we have a short turnaround time for getting something like that done, but we could certainly continue this item to next Monday, and I could try to come back with 3% less. I guess one clarifying question is, when you say departments, do you
And I guess I should have
also-
finished my statement, but go ahead.
Do you also intend for that to include transfers to capital, or is it strictly operating departments?
Can I have a minute to look at that? Or let me ask you this, would it be easier and more feasible when we start in November for the 2020 budget to do it then? Because you're gonna have retirees and different things going on in multiple departments. Would it be easier to do it then than now?
Is it easier to do something in a year and a half than in 1 week? Yes, sir. That is a yes. It is absolutely easier to do
Well, I
something
guess
in
not
a year
even
and a
a
half.
year and a half. I guess I'm thinking we start looking at that in November. Because we know there's gonna be some people.
Yeah,
retiring at the
but
end
you're
of the year.
talking about a process that's from November to the following August. I mean, you're talking about, you know,
10 months.
10 months
So-
as opposed to 7 days.
So if I retract part of that statement and go back to I feel, and my commissioners need to chime in, I feel we need to have a hiring freeze, and if anyone retires in the near future, that position does not get filled until it is brought before the commission. Is that all right?
That's policy, that's not a budget.
No, that's not a
Decision.
budget thing, that's a policy.
Just going forward, just if we do it that way, if we work on tonight's budget, and with a 5% cut per commission salary, and going forward, I guess we can bring that up later, but going forward, we just don't fill any positions.
Well, and, I mean, Mr. Jeter might weigh in on this. I believe we would need a resolution to reduce commission salaries. Commission salaries are set by resolution, so we would amend that. I guess I also have a question of 5% of what, because you're currently slated to get a 1% increase at the end of September. All county staff, including the elected officials are, so that's, we're talking 5% off the current number, or 5% off the number that will be
September 1st number?
September.
5% off the September 1st number is my suggestion,
Okay.
or whenever that goes into effect, is it September 1st?
September 27th, but,
Okay.
yeah,
I guess my suggestion is officially that day.
okay.
Did you send any of these, did you give these to the other commissioners? Where
I don't
if
know
we,
what these
if we,
are, I can't
we
see.
took 2.5, we cut by $2.4 million, how much percentage-wise we would take from each department?
That was the question that you had asked me. and
Right.
I believe I responded to all 3 commissioners, and that was,
So,
I said,
there's a way to do it. Not pretty, but if there's a way to do it.
So commissioners, are you in favor of the, you're actually taking a 6% pay cut instead of a 5%, but to make it official, you're taking a 6%, are you both okay?
Mhm.
Yes? No? We don't know that answer.
Yeah.
We don't know if we're gonna be here tomorrow,
That's right.
but, yes, Mr. Rain?
Good evening, Bill Ray, Public Works Director. Just a point of clarification, and Public Works will do anything we can to assist in this. When you speak of Public Works, that is the department. Public Works incorporates 4 divisions.
Correct.
So we know the landfill's out, but are the other 3 in this? Just so that, you know, in other words, noxious weed and environmental, are you carrying them as part of Public Works? Because they do have separate budgets.
They
Just
do.
what?
They have separate budgets, there's no doubt,
Right.
but I think we've already cut part of them, haven't, didn't we cut? Or did we cut Gary's or not? Did we cut Gary's?
every department
Straight
took
through.
the same 1% reduction,
Okay.
including Road and Bridge.
Let's not forget the responsibilities we have as a commission.
Mhm.
Fire safety, sheriff, law
EMS.
enforcement, EMS.
Yes. Yeah.
And we have to have MS/health. And we have to have roads to get there.
Mhm.
Yep,
Those are, by state statute, that's our responsibility.
If we
So
don't have
from
roads,
there-
then if you call 911, they may not get to you if we don't have roads, so that's why I said, you know, I guess, road and bridge, public works, I mean, they've already been cut a lot. Probably 10% of their budget or more, probably 15% of their budget over the last few years has been cut. They have 10 open positions, if I remember right. that right, Bill? Don't you have 10 open positions?
Actually, right now, there's 6. We have
6.
6? Okay,
There's 6 vacancies.
okay.
We filled a couple.
So I guess the present question on the table is, are we gonna, and we're never gonna fix the problem in a year, as most of you know. It didn't get created in a year, all the overspending, we're not gonna fix it in a year.
Very true.
I mean, are we gonna start in November and start fixing the problem going forward in 2020? Or are we gonna start tonight? And with that, I mean, I personally think if we would start, I guess, in 2020, retracting my earlier statement, starting in November, and just make it very clear on retirements and different things. And we're not gonna fill the positions. It may be easier at that point. Again, it's not gonna fix the present problem, because the problem's been created many years ago.
Well, and I will point out, you have already started fixing the problem. That sheet that Commissioner Wassinger held up earlier, that red number moved out a year based on the actions that the commission has already taken to date. So it's not as though you would be starting tonight. You have already started. You can continue it for the 2019 budget, or you can continue it for subsequent budget years.
And you went out, I think, 4 years on that, didn't you, Phil, that time? That,
It's a 5-year
5-year.
projection, so yeah, but including the 2019 budget and then 4 other years.
so as our start and going forward, I mean, we'll get there, but even if we started, I mean, it's gonna just take time. It's a process that didn't happen in a year, many years ago. Ladies, further input? Marcy? Nothing to say? Barb? I know you had a statement prepared that you read. Thank you for reading that.
I'm good with your statement. I think we need to go ahead and maybe start it in November, get it going. The 5% cut for the commission is fine,
It's actually 6%, but
whatever.
if you count the 1% raise, the raise would go away along with an additional 5.
Because
Right.
normally those aren't
Well, we
set.
have
That's not what you said earlier.
No.
You earlier said add a percent and then cut 5. Now I'm hearing don't add a percent.
Don't add.
September 1, don't add the
Don't
1% in.
add, yeah.
So it'd be a total of 6%, right?
No, it'll be just
Oh.
fine.
Okay,
We
that's
just won't get the raise,
You
we'll
won't
just
get
take a
the raise.
5% cut.
not get the raise, and so it's a 5%
Sure.
cut off the current
There you go.
pre-September
Yeah,
amount.
that's what you meant.
Okay.
Get her done.
Mhm.
We're
That's what
both
you
in
meant.
agreement.
With no 1% in September.
Oh,
No. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Got that
It's
down.
always good to have clarity on these.
That's right. Thank you very much, especially when you're taking people's money away.
Well, I think we got that clear.
Okay, we're good there. So going forward, I guess, no other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the 2019 budget?
I move the commission adopt the county and fire district budgets for 2019 as presented by the staff.
Do we have a second? I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against?
Nay.
Motion carries 2-1, Donna.
I'm not, I'm gonna reiterate that we can still lower the budget this year. And we have, I can point out one budget in particular that's gone up by $130,000 just in 2 years.
If you wouldn't
There's a
mind,
good
would
start
you,
there.
if you wouldn't mind, would you share that with Phil tomorrow to where he can also put that out to the commission to look at?
Pretty
clear.
sure I already
Already
know
did.
which department she's talking about.
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
and I
That's
think I
just
do
the
too
start
from
as you
looking
go
at,
through, so.
I'm pretty sure I do
Still
too
do
from
it.
looking at everything. So
This is,
actually seen a
still
couple
that one.
budgets I thought that we could, and I'll call you tomorrow also, Phil. Seen another budget that we could also look at, so going forward. All right, we'll move on to amendment to pay plan policy, county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Phillips Haynes. So, now that we have talked about reducing the budget, let's talk about how we can spend some more money. The issue that we have confronted is that there are certain occupational classes within the county that, because of market forces in the community, we're just not able to hire folks into those positions. In particular, Public Works, which was the discussion of much of your previous comments, has some positions in their shop that have been vacant for 10, 11 months now. And so we have had a number of conversations internally with the staff, with other folks, and the problem is that if you were to just increase the salaries of those positions, you would have a cascading effect, because you would have the supervisors of those positions and their supervisors, and et cetera. So we've hit upon a fairly novel idea of, instead of doing a increase to the base salary of those positions, to have a premium pay for periods of time where there were these recruitment challenges. So currently, as I said, this is most likely to affect folks in the shop at Public Works, but could potentially in the future be used for any classification throughout the county where you had these kinds of recruitment challenges. And so this would require that the commission make some findings that turnover has been higher than average for the past 3 years, and that the average time to recruit for vacancies has been more than 10% longer than the average time to recruit for other vacancies. And when those findings are met, then the commission could add a 10% premium pay to those individual occupations to try and both retain existing employees and also potentially attract new staff. So the item before the commission tonight is simply to amend the pay plan policy to provide for that. We're not making specific findings for any individual occupation tonight, but if the commission did agree to this amendment this evening, the plan would be for staff to come back with the specific occupations in Public Works that would be affected, and have you make those findings with some supporting data and go forward from there. So I would be happy to answer questions about that item.
I think you put that together very well. Do you have any more questions? Do you have any questions for Phil?
No, I kind of discussed this with him. I think this is what it's going to have to be in order to get
We
anybody.
already discussed this.
Yeah. Okay. This time I'd ask for a motion.
I move the commission adopt the amended policy on administration of pay and classification plans as presented by staff, effective immediately.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, ladies? No? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Okay, Phil, you're next. Establishment of drug court.
It's the Phil Show this evening. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
You
County
get
Administrator
everything.
Phillips Haynes. This item is for the commission to adopt a resolution authorizing creation of a drug court trust fund or drug court grant fund, excuse me, that would hold funds that the commission approved as part of the budget, as well as $10,000 in the current budget year, and would be the place that the new funds received from grants would be deposited. This would be a non-budgeted fund. The reason for that is because most of the grant cycles that the district court would be applying for are on a different fiscal year than the county fiscal year. In order to avoid confusion, it's easier to do this as a non-budgeted fund. In speaking with State Department of Administration, they suggest that it would be cleanest to establish this fund via resolution. County Councilor Jeter has prepared attached resolution 2018-7 for that purpose. And be happy to answer questions. I believe representatives of the district court are in attendance as well.
Or you can go first.
I want to point out that this is trying to change the revolving door that's been going on in the courts. That hasn't worked. We just arrest people, run them through the courts, put them in jail. This is a way to try to stop, and has been proven in other counties that it stops that revolving door, which in the end will save us money. So I move the commission adopt resolution number 2018-7, authorizing the drug court trust fund and direct staff to transfer $10,000 from the general fund to the new fund.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion, ladies? Or if you need to, no? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Don. Phil, anything else you'd like to add? We'll go to county councilor, I guess. We'll give you a break. County councilor report?
County Councilor Bill Jeter, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Phil, what would you like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes. For my report this evening, I will just point out that we have received from both the Kansas Association of Counties and the Kansas Legislative Policy Group requests for any legislative matters that we would like to see as part of their platforms, those two organizations respectively, for the 2019 legislative session. So if the commission or department heads are aware of items, we are supposed to turn the ones for KAC around yet this month, so we would actually need this to be considered by your commission next week. KLPG gives us a little more leeway, so we have until the middle of September to get those in. But if there are items that commissioners would like to consider for the 2019 state legislative session, we want to agendize those soon.
Okay, commissioners, if you have anything, please submit them to Phil if you would.
Be sure we let Lisa know, Lisa Reed. Be sure we let Lisa Reed know about this.
Maybe you haven't established any funding they've got over the years to the counties or something. See how far that goes.
I believe that is already
In the legislative policy for both of them.
See how far that gets. County Commissioner reports. Barb, you may go first.
I think you've heard enough from me.
Okay.
I think more cuts need to be taken before the very end of this budget session and not wait to 2019.
Thank you. Marcy?
Well, I attended the senior companion recognition breakfast. And also, we had a neighbor project meeting and the Ellis Junior Fair, so that I know what our money's being spent on over there. And the commission retreat last week.
That's all I had was a commission retreat, so thank you all. Anything else anything for us this evening? Anything else? Oh, the executive
How
session.
long? 10
We
minutes?
do have an executive session.
Correct.
10 minutes.
Marcy was gonna read that.
Okay. I move the commission recess into executive session along with County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes and County Councilor Bill Jeter to discuss the county administrator's evaluation pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, exception for personnel matters of non-elected personnel, KSA 75-4319B1, with the open session to resume in this room at 5:55 p.m.
Fine, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0 now. When we come back, ladies, if we got